Hello everyone, Mr. D here with a lesson on Handel. I hope you're all doing well and I hope you enjoy this lesson. Handel was just a logical next step after we discussed the life and the works of Johann Sebastian Bach last week. As I mentioned, both of them were Baroque composers, and both of them were born in the same year, 1685, as a matter of fact. Both of them were German, and both of them were absolutely the best keyboard players, harpsichord, and organ players in the entire world. But here is a little bit about Handel. So he was born in Halle, Germany. I hope that's how we pronounce it, Halle, with two L's. And he showed interest in music, but he was not really encouraged to develop it. His father hated music, and he was considering it a weakness. He wanted his son to be financially stable and to become a lawyer, so he wouldn't allow Handel to play anything. However, his mother was very sympathetic. And one of the stories suggests that she smuggled a clavichord, that's a type of keyboard instrument, for him to practice in the attic. So at night he would cover the strings with cloth so he can practice without being heard by his father. So he might not have been allowed to practice openly if it hasn't for a duke who heard him to play the organ. So the duke persuaded him that he should take music lessons. So his first teacher was Zachau, the organist of the Lutheran Church of Halle. Handel was 8 years old, and he really went on. He learned organ, harpsichord, violin, composition, harmony, counterpoint. By the time he was 11, Zachau said that he has nothing more to teach his pupil. Handel's father at some point wanted to stop his lessons, and so he told him to come back immediately from a visit to Berlin. And by the time Handel reached at his house, he was just in time to be with his 74-year-old father when he passed away. So for some time he felt his duty to his father and kept his studies to become a lawyer. But however, he still practiced and sharpened his musical skills. So when he was 18, he finally decided that he was going to become a musician, and he left for Hamburg, Germany. Oh, that was hard to say. Hamburg, Germany, and it was there where his travels started. So Hamburg was the center of the German opera, and so he got a job in the famous opera house as a second violinist. And however, he took an advantage, and so when a harpsichord player was sick, he showed his talent at the keyboard. At the opera house, he became friends with Johann Mattheson, who was also who was older and composer, a singer, a theorist. Their friendship was interrupted by a quarrel, which led to a duel. So both of them were really sword fighting. And so Mattheson's sword split when it struck one of the buttons on Handel's coat. So for all we know, his career came really close to a stop before it really began. So from Hamburg, Handel traveled to Italy by an invitation to a prince who heard Handel's music and really liked it. So Italy was really a turning point for Handel. He heard and he met the composers and the performers of the greatest opera and chamber cantatas, and this experience really refined his talents. So later, after Germany and Italy, he visited England. And so when he was 26, he composed an opera that was called Rinaldo. And it had tremendous success. So Handel was came back to Germany. He worked for a nobility. His name was George. And what is really interesting is that Queen Anne of England, who liked his opera Rinaldo so much, she was really trying to poach him. So she tried the first time when he was there, but after that, the second time he visited London, she really succeeded and helped him to cut all his ties with his German employer. What is really interesting is that after Queen Anne died, the next in line for the throne was that German nobility, George, who became King George the second, I think, of England, and so he was in a really awkward position. Fortunately for him, King George liked music and his music too much to hold a grudge. So he wasn't, in the doghouse for a long time. So anyway, so when he was with Queen Anne, he was named the music director of the Royal Academy of Music when it opened in 1720. So that is kind of like really significant. The Royal Academy of Music in London, which is so well known today, was opened in 1720, and he was the music director of it. So now he wasn't very popular. He had a very hot temper. He was a big man, and so he often had conflicts with rival composers and singers and patrons, and he was known for his temper. He would yell at performers who did not follow his order. When one singer refused to sing a piece Handel ordered, he actually held her out of a window. So after at some point, Handel suffered a stroke, which temporarily paralyzed his right arm and prevented him from performing. So he was active, but his efforts were scattered. So he continued to produce Italian operas, but the public really did not favor them anymore. And so by the time he was 65, Handel was also suffered from blindness in one eye. The loss of sight affected his quality in the later compositions. Soon he went completely blind after a botched eye surgery. Nevertheless, he continued to play organ and concertos from memory, improvise musical scores, and so he was a kind person. He often gave concerts to benefit performers in need and charity. He never married or had any children. He left a chunk of his estate to a niece in Germany. And there were gifts to other friends, servants, and charities. Um, Now, a little bit about Handel's times. He was born in a moment of history where proper behavior was important. Wealthy people made a great effort to show their financial and social status through clothing. They usually use dark cloth for their jackets, and they had bright silver and gold buttons. They were embroidered, and then they had ruffles, those things on your wrists. The wigs were covered the heads of the most fashionable man. So there were so many styles that you can do. Wigs were very expensive, and sometimes they got stolen from their heads right on the busy street. Women, on the other hand, was even more outlandish. Their hair was put so high, and it was really, really high to make them appear much taller than men. So they had ribbons, ostrich feathers, flowers, even fruit. I was looking for a lemon to put in my hair, but not today. They had these huge skirts that would take an entire width of a sidewalk. And so the pale skin was in fashion. So the women tended to put a foundation on their face that was made by the very unhealthy white lead. So the eyebrows were darkened, lips were roughed with red leather or colored plaster, and so it was very common for women to wear false teeth, and sometimes to stick round balls, cork balls, in their cheeks so they look rounder. So another interesting thing about this time period is that Europeans were not very clean during Handel's time. They rarely took baths, and most often wore the same clothes for days. So the ladies carried their own purses filled with their favorite scents. So they used perfume, in other words, to cover the very offensive smells that would be created when you know the body produces the anyway, soaking in a tub, for example, was usually done only when you were sick. I mentioned about the clothes. They were, especially the heavy fabrics. They were very difficult to wash, so they didn't. When cheap cotton was introduced later in the 18th century, laundry was done more often. And so cotton also led to better table manners because cloth napkins were easier to wash. In any case, so that's a little bit about his time. Now about his compositions, I'll make another video for you guys to watch, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. I hope you enjoyed this little segment about Handel's life and his times, and I hope that you find it a little bit amusing. It is very interesting time, and when you think how people lived 350 years ago. So anyway, enjoy. I'll see you later.